Good morning, everyone. I am SuperDerek, and it's time for your JRPG weekly update. Last time I did something a little bit more laid back, a little more casual, and I feel like that worked really well for me, and it seemed like you guys really kind of appreciated that too. So I'm gonna just go ahead and continue on with this. Let's go ahead and start talking about our lead story after this. Ooh, that's still pretty hot, but man, it's good. So, lead story today, because obviously I didn't do this last week, and I'll talk about that a little later. But what happened last week, the really shook things up, is Fallout 76 came out and immediately just got torn to shreds by everybody who played it. Fallout 76, for those of you who don't know, is a follow-up to Fallout, the Fallout series. It's this online game, this online first-person shooter where everybody's kind of playing. It's kind of like not a massively multiplayer online, but there's a generally crowds of people playing at a time, I guess you could say, and uh, and you don't really have quest givers. There's no NPCs aside from maybe a few robots here and there, some enemies that you'll fight, but there's no friendlies. I'll say that there's no friendlies in the game, and which that's kind of it kind of goes against the grain of what Fallout is kind of usually known for, is having uh RPG elements involving like quests and quest givers and um anyways, when the game was originally announced, because and I won't say I told you so because I didn't. When the game first was announced, I was very skeptical about the game because I didn't think it was going to be an RPG, but I still thought that it could be very good at whatever it was going to try to be because it was Bethesda. And while I would have expected some bugs, some bugs was a bit of an understatement if the general word on the internet is to be believed. And it looks like it is to be believed because the game's already getting slashed in prices, which is pissing off a lot of people who already bought the game when it was originally launched. So while I do feel somewhat vindicated by my Bethesda video that got about 50% dislikes, I'm feeling a little bit better about myself over that one. It still really sucks that the game is so bad, and it does look like it's not actually an RPG either. Who'd have thunk it? It looks like it's kind of just a first-person shooter online with some quest elements. I guess you can like go up to computers and stuff, and some computers will have you do stuff, and and I guess some of it is still kind of like you still have missions that you acquire. Um, it just it's so broken though. I kind of wish that I had been given a copy. I did sign up for a review copy through my network, but they didn't end up getting a copy of that to me, unfortunately. But on the bright side, because I didn't get it, I didn't have to suffer through any of it. And it looks like there's some people who have been playing through it for reviews, like publishing companies, God, I can't name them off the top of my head because I've just been casually reading about it throughout the week. But some actual review websites have like given up after a few hours of playing the game because it's just so broken. Even my buddy Wood from Beat 'em Ups, who is infectiously happy about everything. Even he had to be negative about this game, which, oh my God, for Wood to be negative about a game, to be actually just legitimately negative about his experience and not be able to put some sort of smiling twist on it. Oh my God, that game must be really, really bad. And that's, again, I, I'm feeling vindicated, but oh my God, I just feel so bad for the fact that it is this bad. Like Bethesda, I love Bethesda games. I loved Bethesda games, but if their games are gonna start being kind of like this, oh, I don't know. Let's just say I'm not really as hyped about the Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, let's face it, I wasn't really hyped in the first place, but now I'm actually kind of a little hesitant about being any amount of hype coming out for Fallout or for Elder Scrolls 6 has me concerned. Uh especially because it sounds like they're going to continue using the same engine, which they've been using since basically Morrowind, or probably even before. I don't know for sure. Um, at least as far back as Morrowind, they've been using this engine that they've been developing in-house and been iterating upon it, and it's clearly showing some signs of not being able to really handle what they want to put it through. And I really hope that they pull their heads out of their asses soon, because honestly, guys, there's really no reason for this. Before the game even received this amount of whiplash, or backlash rather, the game was getting heavily criticized by even tech giants on YouTube, that is, like uh, Linus Tech Tips, who talked about how the game's animations were tied to its frame rates, and and the workaround that Bethesda put out as a patch for the problem that they were experiencing was to lock the frame rate to like 30 frames per second, which is bad, by the way. They either locked it to 30 or 60. I'm not sure which, but basically, not being able to play above 30 is terrible. Not being able to play above 60 is still really bad for a PC game, and it sounds like they really just need to switch engines. And I really hope that they do, because in the past they've said that it's easier to develop on Gamebryo, and maybe that's true, but also it's also detrimental to them. I think it's become a bit of a crutch, and I hope that they're able to. Like, people have been saying that they need to get a new engine since the original launch of Skyrim. So the fact that they're still struggling with getting games working on this, and oh my gosh, it's so buggy. I'm pretty sure this engine is why they're known for all of their bugginess. Bethesda, that is. Um, I hope that I hope that this is a loud message, loud and clear, that they need to make some changes. Also, from what I've been listening and reading about this, especially from like Dreamcast guy, who says that he's heard that the development team behind this particular game was a much smaller one that didn't really get any feedback from the community directly. It was all just passed through their own internal QA team, and um, gosh, that's really crazy, and I really am disappointed in Bethesda for not really putting in the effort to make this game as good as it could have been, and not really protecting their intellectual property, not really holding it up to the standards of quality that we should be expecting from them. Because let's not forget, this wasn't even originally Bethesda's IP. This is now, the original Fallout games, the amazing Fallout 1 and 2, have now this other black sheep within the series that is kind of bringing down the Fallout brand as as a whole. So they're not just besmirching their own names, but they're besmirching the name of a really good series that they have acquired, and that's really also just. I feel like they should pay better. I'm not sure how I want to say this. I feel like they should do better. Bethesda, do better, guys. But this is the JRPG Weekly Update, not the Western RPG update. So let's talk about some news, most of which is actually completely not Fallout related, so you'll be happy with that. Tetsuya Nomura has stated that Kingdom Hearts 3 is now finished in its development. The game is complete, and won't be experiencing any more delays before its launch in January, which is really exciting. I've been actually starting to play through the Kingdom Hearts series in preparation for Kingdom Hearts 3, and while part of me wishes that it was delayed just a little bit longer so I could actually play through all of the games and make sure that I have plenty of time to do so, it's still really reassuring that the game is on schedule now and finished, and now they have plenty of time to fix bugs before the game launches, because if there's a day one patch after they've had like 2 months to prepare, I'll be disappointed in you, Square Enix. I've always said Square and Squaresoft recently. I need to get better at saying Square Enix, I think, because they are definitely not just Squaresoft anymore. But let's move on to Let's Go Pokemon, or that's how I'm calling it. It's actually Let's Go Pikachu, or Let's Go Pokemon Pikachu. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Let's just say Let's Go Pokemon to kind of encompass them all together. I think that's how I want to go about talking about these games, but Let's Go Pokemon has sold over 3 million copies within the first week of its launch, making it the fastest selling Nintendo Switch title so far, which is really very good, I think. I think it's good that it's selling well. Um, I I've seen a lot of the gameplay. I've watched my buddy Wood play through a lot of the game. I've watched a few people play through the game. Not all of the game, but several bits of it, and it's kind of given me a pretty good feel for how the game is supposed to play out. And what it really strikes me as is um, a Pokemon light, a very casual Pokemon. And Pokemon was already pretty casual to begin with, though it did have some pretty hardcore standard JRPG battle mechanics to it. Now they're starting to change things, and I feel like that's okay that they want to change things. Of course, they should change things because honestly, Pokemon's been in a rut since they've failed to change things for so long. And now that they're starting to, um, it's kind of a bittersweet thing for people like me who really just love the original RPG mechanics. I always am hesitant to call Pokemon an RPG or an RPG series because there's very little about it that draws me to it as a JRPG. Um, it's very like it does have a turn-based battle system, which is inherently something that came from the JRPG genre. But I feel like they're almost their own genre, which just happens to have that JRPG element. You know what I mean? And now, as the Pokemon franchise is progressing, they're starting to have fewer and fewer of those JRPG elements. Where I would have preferred they start embracing those JRPG elements. And I think that what I mean by that is, Pokemon has always had a very weak plot, as far as, or rather, the same plot over and over. Where you're a kid, it's time to go on a Pokemon hunt, and you fight a bunch of gyms, you capture a bunch of Pokemon, you fight the Elite Four, you save the world from Team whatever, and rinse and repeat. That's basically every Pokemon in a nutshell, or at least every main Pokemon in a nutshell. And I would have preferred that they maybe infused the game with more story driven elements from the JRPG series. But I understand that the lack thereof may in fact be one of the reasons that Pokemon has just been so successful over the years. The fact of the matter is that Pokemon is just one of those games that you can put down for a week or two and pick it back up, and because of the formula of the way that the games have worked forever, since forever, you can pretty much find out, oh, I have these badges, the next badge is here, let's just continue on toward that location. You don't have to remember all these minutia of what's been happening in the story up to that point. You can just pick up and play it. And that is probably something that, while I wish that the Pokemon series had embraced more of the JRPG storytelling, uh, more of the plot-based focus, something with like character development. I understand that they can't really do that without sacrificing a lot of that pickup and playability. So it's just kind of in this weird section of my mind where I like Pokemon, but I don't. But I like it, but I don't. And that's one of the reasons that I've been playing through that Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge so much lately. Over on my Twitch channel, for those of you who don't know, Pokemon Nuzlocke is basically Twitch. It's basically Pokemon with hard mode with self-imposed rules and permadeath. So when your Pokemon dies in battle or faints in battle, it actually dies, and you have to go, release it into the wild or bury your Pokemon. Essentially, it's supposed to help develop more of a connection with your Pokemon, which is something I suppose they're sort of doing by allowing your Pikachu or Eevee to like sit on your hat in Let's Go. But I feel like they could have gone about it a different way. They could have made it feel more like the anime with more characters that you interact with. Like who I mean there's Misty and Brock from the original TV series, but in the game when you're playing by yourself, it's basically you, and every once in a while you bump into Gary in the original Pokemon. I feel like there's also that other rival that they started introducing who's not really an antagonist to you. He's sort of like he picks the third Pokeball basically, and I think that that was kind of a neat idea. And well, I guess we're starting to talk about the evolution of the Pokemon series, which I'm honestly underqualified to be talking about. But point of the matter was, Pokemon Let's Go has been removing a lot of that hardcore JRPG battle system mechanic by just kind of putting it on even like a second set of training wheels, if you will, like it's a bicycle with that already had a set of training wheels on the back. Now it's also got a set of training wheels on the front of the bike as well, making it like a six wheeler. That's how I feel like this game is, and you can basically I've heard you can basically beat it in one sitting because of the way that experience points is just distributed to all of your Pokemon. You don't actually have to battle. You don't actually have to learn how to battle to to get better. You just go out there, start throwing Pokeballs at Pokemon, and everybody gains levels. And that's how it works by default. I think you can turn off experience share if you wanted, but why would you? And yeah, I feel like it's definitely a derivative of Pokemon Go, and that catch mechanic, while it's better than just hitting A to select a Pokeball and hitting A again to throw it, um, it's still not it's not a good replacement for the gameplay that existed prior. Like maybe if they had that Pokemon Go throwing mechanic in addition to the battle mechanics to wearing down the Pokemon, maybe that would have been more up my alley. But this by itself just doesn't make a great gameplay experience from what I've seen. Again, I haven't played it. Again, I'm in the poorhouse, so I can't go out and buy these games. If I'm lucky, somebody might send me a review code, but that hasn't happened in a long while, guys. But yeah, based on what I've seen, doesn't look like it's for me, but it looks like it's for a lot of other people. A lot of casual people are just picking up and playing through the game, and apparently it's flying off store shelves and good for Nintendo and good for them. Um, I'm just conflicted because that's how I am. Why am I the way that I am? I don't know. But that's basically it for news. But we did get some new games that were announced. We didn't end up getting a whole lot of games announced last week, or the week before last, rather, which is part of why I didn't end up making a video on Monday of last week. But this week we had several more to talk about, starting with Nippon Ichi Software, who has announced a new RPG called Destiny Connect, which I'm actually kind of stupidly excited for this. I don't know if this is actually coming out in the United States or not. It hasn't been said that it will, but get this. This is a game that's going to take place in 1999 on December 31st, and the world is basically time has stopped. It's like inspired by the Y2K bug, right? And it involves time travel, and yeah, it looks super charming. There's only a few screenshots of it that have been released so far, but the game just I want to play it. I don't know much about it, but uh, it looks like a game that took place when I was in my JRPG loving prime, like my the prime of my youth. I was 13 or 14, and it looks like these kids are 13 or 14, so it's gonna be kind of like playing in like my stomping grounds from when I was a kid, and it looks like it's gonna be really cool. It's got time travel, which is one of my favorite mechanics of any kind of RPG. Um, who knows if it's gonna be implemented well, but it's Nippon Ichi, not NIS America, who has kind of like a sketch track record, but actually Nippon Ichi Software of Japan, who in Japan they can do no wrong. So I really hope that Nippon Ichi Software of America brings this one over, and I hope that they do a good job with it because I'm feeling pretty good about this. Now, the game's supposed to come out in February in Japan, which is pretty close. That's like just a couple months away, like just a little more than 2 months. And Like I said, I think that looks pretty good. Also, Square Enix has announced a game is coming to the West. This is called SINoALICE or SINoALICE. I don't know how you would say that in Japanese, but it's basically Sin of Alice. And this is a game that centers around classic fairy tale stories, uh, like I guess Alice in Wonderland and some of the Brothers Grimm sort of stories, which is pretty cool. It sounds like a good concept, but it's a smartphone game. And from what I've seen of the gameplay, it looks like you're tapping on the screen, which is kind of what you do on a smartphone. And I think the gameplay looks a little weak, so I'm not getting my hopes up for that one too much, but if you guys are into this sort of thing, then definitely check it out. It's going to be coming out here soon. I don't have a release date written down here right now, but, if you're interested, I'm sure that info is everywhere right now. And speaking of mobile games, Langrisser L has been announced it's coming to the West as well. And this is going to be a not your traditional Langrisser. I don't think it. No, it is. It is. It's going to be a strategy RPG uh, on mobile. So cool. And also, Super Robot Wars DD is a mobile game. Also, just getting all the mobile games announcements out of the way, by the way. That is coming to Japan and East Asia in 2019. No announcement of whether that's coming to the States or not, but because the Super Robot Wars involves a lot of different IPs from all over, and the way that those IPs are kind of handled here in the West as anime IPs, their rights are held by a lot of different companies. It's probably not going to come out here in the States, which is too bad because, not because of the mobile game, but because on the Switch and the PS4, Super Robot Wars T has been announced for Japan and Asia. And while that's not coming to the States, the East Asia release of the game is going to have US subtitles, or English speaking English subtitles. There are other English speakers out there, I've been told. I don't know. There's this place called Canada and the United Kingdom, I guess. Oh yeah, and Straya. Anyways, so if you live in one of these English speaking regions, you may be in luck because you can import these games when they come out in East Asia. You can import them because the PS4 and Switch, which it's coming out for, are region-free consoles, which is exciting, especially if you're a fan of giant robots fighting each other, which, as far as anime goes, I'm surprisingly not really into mecha, but I understand the appeal. Giant kung fu robots is pretty rad in and of itself. And, yeah, I might end up getting a copy just because, like, I know that there was the recent PSP game that got a fan translation, which you should check out. I've talked about that in the past. But it looks like this could be pretty cool. I mean, it even had people from like G Gundam, which is one of the very few anime that I actually watched when it was on Toonami. That was about mecha, and it looked and actually enjoyed it, which unironically I enjoyed that game, even though it was kind of very dumbed down, which is maybe why I really liked it. But you should, I don't know. Anyways, point is, it's going to be coming out in East Asia. Keep your eyes on it. It's sometime in 2019, and when it comes out, you'll have to import it. But hey, it's going to feature a lot of mecha from so many different franchises that, how could you go wrong, right? Now, Namco Bandai have also revealed a new game that they're working on. It's in development for the Switch. It's called Ninja Box, and Ninja Box is kind of an interesting looking game. I haven't seen any gameplay footage for it yet, but essentially it's going to be an RPG in which the players design their own secret bases, or secret hideouts rather, or it's all basically the same. You play as a ninja who's creating a space. It's for the Nintendo Switch, and it looks very Switch-like. From what I've seen, again, no gameplay has been shown yet. There's not really very much that we know about it at this time, but the style looks neat, and I don't know if it's going to be coming out to the States yet or not. It's, again, Namco Bandai, so it's kind of hit and miss. We've been getting a lot more games lately, so I'm gonna operate under the assumption that we will be getting it, especially if it's on this Nintendo Switch. So yeah. Now we did get some other announcements here for some release dates to keep us up to date. Vanillaware has announced that the 13 Sentinels Aegis? Aegis. I always get that confused. Is it Aegis or Aegis? Because Persona 3 has ruined me. I think it's Aegis. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim has been delayed, and the Vita version of the game has been canceled, leaving only PS4 left as a destination that we know about. And let's see, there's no actual release date that they've provided since it's been delayed. And it's also, the game has been announced for the US release, or for a US release has been announced. You know what I mean. And the projected release date for that will also probably be affected by the Japanese release, obviously. So if that's something that you've been keeping an eye out for, just know that you have a little more time to spend some money, to save some money, and spend some time on other things. Atelier Lelua, Scion of Ireland. This game has been announced as getting a release date in Japan of March 20th. And that means that there's probably going to be a little bit of time between obviously, the US release. We should be getting it. Not sure when, but it's going to come sometime after March. So you have at least until March to enjoy the Atelier compilation that they're putting out, the Ireland saga, the Ireland trilogy, I think. Anyways, I mentioned it before. There's a collection of the Ireland games that's coming out here pretty soon. I believe at the beginning of December. So if you want to get caught up on what's going on with the Ireland series before that comes out, you've got a good few months to do so if you pick up that trilogy. I believe on December 4. So, plan your playtime accordingly. The other time, I like a week and a half ago, I think I talked about the delay of Phantasy Star 1 for the Nintendo Switch. Well, we did finally get the release, a release date of December 13th for here in the United States. The game was released with English options in Japan a while back, and it finally is going to be coming to the States. I'm not sure what the deal was with the hang up there, but we're finally getting it. So if you've been looking for a way to play Phantasy Star 1 without plopping down a bunch of money on a Sega Master System and the actual cartridge, which is not inexpensive, by the way, then this is a pretty good way to do so. This part of the Sega Ages releases that they've been doing, and it looks like it's going to be pretty cool. So, make sure that you have your eyes out for that one. Again, that is December 13th, so that's going to be a little over 2 weeks from now. Now, Dragon, Marked for Death. This is a side-scrolling action RPG. It's getting a worldwide release. It's been announced. It's been delayed to January 31st, but it's coming out all around the world on January 31st. So you have that to look forward to as you celebrate Kansas's birthday. No, wait, that's not Kansas's birthday. Never mind. Kansas's birthday is the 29th. Now you learned something, huh? Now, the game's also going to be getting a physical release in the United States and worldwide. It's going to be handled by another publisher. I can't recall the name of the publisher who's going to be doing the physical releases, but they said that they're going to be releasing the physical versions of the game as close to the digital release date as possible, which I take to mean sometime in February. So, if you are down with the digital version, it sounds like the digital version is the only one that's going to be released worldwide on January 31st. But if you're looking for the physical copy, you got to wait a little while longer. And you're probably also going to want to keep an eye out around that time, because I'm guessing that it's going to be kind of a limited release. Probably not as limited as, like, say, limited run games, but pretty limited nonetheless. And it's probably going to be one of those hard to get games, I'm guessing. So if you're a fan of side-scrolling action RPGs, they're not my cup of tea, but I know some of you guys probably really like them, so keep your eyes out for them, because, it's coming out. So now it's time for a segment in which I normally talk about what I did last week. So I'll just tell you, last week, guys, I ended up taking a bit of a break. I needed a bit of a break, honestly. Uh, I've been hitting it pretty fast, pretty hard lately, and I've also been um, coming to terms with the fact that YouTube full time has really just not been sustainable. Uh, Unfortunately, try as I might, that period of time in which I wasn't able to produce content for a couple of months was really detrimental to the growth of and the trajectory of the channel. So I was also going to job interviews, which is something that I did last Monday, which is why I didn't release anything that day either. Um, Hopefully, I'll find out if I have a job later on this week. So fingers crossed, because it'd be really nice to eat something other than ramen and hot dogs again. But I've been having a really good time of it so far, and while it has been really stressful and it's really opened my eyes a lot about what it takes to actually go full time with YouTube, which is it's a lot. It takes a lot, and especially at the size that my channel was when I started, I saw tremendous growth from like 20,000 to 30,000 subscribers in just a few months, which was in no small part a huge factor played the role in that was hanging out with Johnny and doing a video with him, and then doing that video with Wood about the upcoming RPGs on the Switch. Um, and that was enormously helpful, and I have so many new viewers because of those that I'd like to thank Johnny and Wood again, guys. Thank you so much. Um, Again, though, it's just it still just wasn't quite enough, and it's discouraging because I was really close to being able to do it, not comfortably though. And so what I think I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be reeling in my release schedule, and I've kind of already been doing that because I've been burning out a little bit. So I'm probably going to go. I haven't decided on a new release schedule yet, but I'm thinking about maybe 1 to 2 videos per week from now on. And I'm probably going to start doing the JRPG weekly updates on Sunday because my job that I eventually get is most likely to be a Monday through Friday sort of thing. And doing these Monday morning updates is, while it's been really great, it's not something I can probably do before going to work in the morning, if you know what I mean. Um, but anyways, I wanted to let you guys know at least where I've been, what I've been doing, which is to say, taking a break and again coming to grips with my situation and trying to improve my situation. Um, so I I am still working on writing scripts for a couple of reviews now because I also last week finished up Kingdom Hearts 1 final mix. So um I should have a couple of reviews just on the horizon here. Knock on wood. Now, games that are coming out this week, we have Cattails, which is coming out for Nintendo Switch. It's looking like it's going to be an action RPG. I don't know very much about it. Also, Darksiders 3 is coming to PS4 and Xbox One and PC later on this week. And then lastly, we have a virtual reality action RPG, which kind of looks pretty cool. And I wish that I had virtual reality options available to me, but it's called In Death. And that's in DEATH, not in depth. It's in death. And it's making its way to PlayStation VR. The game is exclusively for VR, and it looks pretty cool. Well, guys, thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. I like doing these a little bit more casually, even though it does take a lot longer. But you know what? I'm having a good time, and I hope that you had a good time too. So until next time, everybody, thank you all so much for joining me. I am SuperDerek, and this was news to me.